Hello, this is Vedat from Programmership. In this chapter, we are gonna talk about loops in Swift. Loop is a block of code that can be executed repeatedly until a certain condition happens. It is better to explain the loop in examples. Today, we will see three kinds of loops in Swift. These are for in, let's say for in, and the second one is while loop. The last one is repeat while. Let's start with the first one, which is for in. For in loop can iterate over a collection of items or a range of numbers, and we can execute a block of code for each iteration in the collection or range. Let's create a basic for in loop and see how it works. Let's say for my number, this is the variable name, and put a space, and let's say in, which is our keyword. And here we're going to define a range of numbers, which starts from 1 to 5. And put your curly brackets and close it. Let's print and say number is, let's put our variable my number, and hit run. And here, this block of code was executed 5 times because this range contains 5 numbers. Each time my number variable was assigned the next number. It starts from the first number through the last number, which is 5. Well, let's create an array and iterate through each item. Here, let's delete this and say var student names is equal to, and open your square bracket and close it. So inside, let's put some initial values. Let's say Vedat, put a comma and add another value. Let's say Michael, and let's say Isaac. And finally, let's add another one, Gabriel. So let's iterate through each item. Or let's give a variable name, let's say item in, and put our source, which is student names. And open your curly bracket and close it. Here inside the curly brackets, I want to print the item. And let's hit run. And we can see all the item of student names array was printed out. We can also iterate over a dictionary and access its key and value pairs. Let's do that. Delete this and let's say var product prices is equal to, open your square bracket and close it. And inside, let's give a key, let's say notes book for our dictionary, and its value, let's say 1500, and put a comma, and let's add another key value pair, phone for the key, and let's say 900 for its value. And finally, let's add another key value pair, let's say tablet, and this is 1000. In this dictionary, we have 2 parameters to access. These are key and value. Key is the product name and the value is the price of that product. We can access both parameters in the for in loop. And here, let's say for, open a parenthesis and close it, and inside, let's define 2 variables. First one will get the product, the key of dictionary, and the second variable will get the value of that key, let's say price for that variable name, and put the in keyword, and here let's put our source, which is product prices dictionary. Open your curly bracket and close it, and inside let's print the product name and the price. Let's say product name price is, and let's put the price value for that. Fix this. All right. So let's hit run, and we can see the keys and its values. Well, what about while loop? Principle is the same as for in loop. You create a condition and it will run the block of code while this condition applies. Let's create a while loop that will execute a block of code 5 times. Let me delete this. Let's define a variable which is integer. Let's say counter is equal to 0. And here put a while keyword to create a while loop. And let's create a condition. If my counter is less than 5, execute this block. Let's put print and say number is, put our counter. If I run this code, it will execute this block infinitely because the counter variable always will be less than 5. Sorry, it must be 6. So just because the counter variable is 0 and it will always be less than 6, this block of code will be executed infinitely. In this case, we must add another line of code to break this infinite loop. Let's add another line and say counter is equal to counter plus 1. And in this case, our counter variable will be increased in each iteration. Let's hit run and we can see the print line was executed 5 times. We can also iterate over an array using the while loop. If I say here var my array and create an array with some initial values, let's say item 1, item 2, and let's say item 3. Here, instead of counter, let's define another variable, let's say index. And inside the while loop, let's say if index is my array.count, which returns the count of my array. While index is less than my array.count, let's increase the index in each iteration. Let's say item is, and here I'm going to access each item of the array, say index. If I hit run, all the items must be printed out. Let's hit run. And there we go, all the item was listed. Finally, let's take a look at the repeat while loop. The only difference between while and repeat while loop is while loop at first checks the condition, and if it is true, then it will execute the block of code. But repeat while first execute the block of code and then check the condition. If the condition is not true, then the block of code will not be executed. That is the only difference. Take a look at an example. And let me delete this. And let's create a variable. Let's say var counter is equal to 1. And to create a repeat while, first put your repeat keyword, open your curly bracket and close it, and at the end of the curly bracket put your condition while counter less than, say, 6, and here inside the curly brackets let's print the number, say number is, and put our counter. Hit run. And as you can see, it runs infinitely because we didn't break the infinite loop. Through that, we must also increase the counter and hit run again. The result is the same, just like in a while loop. But if I change the initial value of counter as 10 and hit run, even though the while condition does not apply because the counter is 10 and it is always greater than 6, repeat block was executed once. That is the only difference. Alright, that was a basic loop usage in Swift. See you in the next chapter. Goodbye.